Hello everyone, this is part 11 of What If Naruto was exiled after he brought Sasuke back, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Kami, take you. Tenten yelled as she shredded another puppet. Lee and Neji were fighting back to back and Tenten cursed at being separated from the boys by the damned puppets. Her Pantera were great for up close, but she was getting fed up as in close fighting was still not her favorite form of combat. Leaping into the air, she pulled two scrolls from her waist and looked at the puppet master. This ends now, she said, and started spinning with blades of all shapes and sizes exited the scrolls into her hands and were fired rapidly. Shuriken, kunai, swords, scythes, chakram, dagger darts, spears all flew and all aimed at Sasori. Yes, Tenten exclaims as her aim is true and Sasori becomes a mass of blades. She lands again and barely avoids a puppet's attack. This shouldn't be, she said, avoiding another attack. Tenten. Lee yells. Neji performs another chitin spin and scatters the puppets. The pair reunite with Tenten. How can this be? She asked. He's perforated with weapons. Neji's eyes studied the puppet master. Something is off. Lee's fist connected with another puppet. And switch over to the final side of the cavern where Deidara is taunting Itachi. What's the matter, Uchiha? Can't use that pathetic Kekkei Genkai of yours. Pain and the others always praised you as a prodigy. You're just a spoiled leaf nin is all. Several more explosions rang out and Itachi looked unconcerned. You still talk too much, Itachi said, and Deidara screamed as a kunai buried up to the handle on his left thigh. Aggghhhhhhh. You bastard Uchiha. Itachi smiled at that, with who my father was, it could be. He said with a slight shrug. If any of the Leaf Nins had heard this, they would wonder if Itachi had gotten all the emotions in the Uchiha clan, as he was more emotional than Sasuke, and they'd only known Itachi a short time. Deidara, you bore me. I'll kill you and you will know you failed your master. Sasori-sama will resurrect me. Deidara said with a grin. He won't let you win, Uchiha. You betrayed the Akatsuki before the rings destroyed. We all saw you, Toby. Black flames formed in Itachi's palm. That was an abomination. He was an Uchiha that wasn't. He was Pain's toy. Like many of you. Itachi's left hand and right hand formed a sphere shape and black flames spiraled fast as they formed. Rest in peace, Deidara. Hell has waited your coming for some time. The black flame fireball was launched and Deidara barely had a chance to scream as his body was eaten by the black flames, bones and all leaving a smoldering pile of blackened ash. Chio looked at the cave and shaking her head moved towards it. Ano, Chio-san, but we were ordered to wait here. Hanabi said to the Suna Nin. Do as you please, girl. I have things that need to be settled and I can't do it out here watching a lovesick schoolgirl gripe about how she's being treated. Hanabi looked at Sakura, who she'd knocked out with a light Juken strike. The pink-haired girl had been pacing and going on and on about how things would have been had her Sasuke-kun been in charge. Hanabi had finally had enough, and when Sakura mentioned how she was sure it was all Naruto's fault and that he probably had Orochimaru Sasuke-kun, well, Hanabi had enough. You will not insult the man my sister loves. And when he comes back and given time accepts her, I will crush any that think about upsetting my sister again. The head of the Hyuga family scowled at the pink-haired girl. We can't leave her here, she said. Chio scowled and pulled out a small vial and snapped the wax seal. Hold that under her nose. Sakura woke moments later and looked about. Let's go, Haruno. Chio-san wishes to settle some personal debts. Sakura found she was unable to speak and Hanabi smirked. That pale-eyed whore. When Sasuke-kun hears about this. I know. Can you believe the arrogance of the Hyuga? She thinks just because her clan was decimated and she's a clan leader she can get away with all of this. Ina Sakura agreed. She followed and they'd just entered the cave as Itachi's fire turned Deidara to ash. Chio walked past Baki, who was mourning the loss of his leg. Hanabi paused and with a Juken strike knocked him out. It's for his own good. He was in too much pain. Hanabi followed Chio, who was using a chakra pulse to shut down the mines. The young Hyuga was watching with her Byakugan and thought it was something to look into when they got back to Konoha. Chiyo waded through the puppets. Barker. She snarled and struck the pincushion that was Sasori. A loud crack filled the cavern and Team 9 realized that the puppets ceased moving. They looked at the old woman in shock. Get out of that stupid doll, boy, she said, smacking it again, and another crack appeared. Knock knock, she said with a third blow, and all the weapons that had been embedded in the form of Sasori popped out like shot from a cannon. Temari was leaning on her fan, which was resting on the end of the sorcerer. She didn't care about the others, she didn't care if they all wiped each other out. What she cared about was her brother, who had changed since his loss to Uzumaki Naruto during the invasion. She liked her brother, she cared for her brother. I'll be damned if some third-rate dark wizard with delusions of grandeur will take him away from me. How do I stop it? She hissed. The man's dark eyes were bugging out of his skull as he struggled to breath. I can't hear you, bastard. Remove runes. The man gasped. Temari looked at the glowing runes, and with a nod she grabbed him by his robes and dragged him over the circle and used his body to smear a rune. He screamed in pain as it backfired upon him. The explosion rocked the cave. At the same time, Sasori was shown to be inside the body of his doll, his body shrunken and weak. Hello, grandchild, Chiyo said as her fist slammed into the pale face of her own and blood. Temari looked at her brother, who seemed to be She stepped on the sorcerer's body, which was twitching as life left it from the backfired spell rebounding on him. Gaara, she asked, dropping to her knees. Come on, you better be alive or I'm going to kill you, she said, feeling for a pulse. You can't on me, little brother. You can't leave me with Kankuro. Who's going to threaten Shikamaru? Mumbler isn't right for you. Gaara, Temari said, hugging him as his eyes fluttered open. You're alive, she said, tears coming to her eyes in relief. Something's not right, Gaara said weakly, his voice sounding exhausted. Chiyo. Temari called out. Get over here. Over by Sasori's said body, Chiyo looked up from pulping the puppet master and sighed. This will have to do, she muttered, and she slammed her fist once more down into the shattered skull of what had been her grandson, hiding in the puppet he made that had looked like him. Chiyo walked away, leaving the Konoha nin to deal with their injuries. Hinata and Hanabi with Kakashi bandaged up Team 9, Hinata using antitoxins, seeing some of the puppets were coated with poisons. Sakura meanwhile followed Chiyo. She was in awe of the old woman's abilities, and had seen her bag with scrolls while they'd waited earlier. If I can learn from there, I'm sure I can impress Sasuke-kun, she thought. Chiyo ignored her pink-haired shadow and checked on the Kazekage. She performed several medical jutsus and looked at Temari. He's she said. What? Why? The blonde Kunoiki asked. The demon was removed. The fact he's still alive is his will alone, Chiyo said. You're a great healer, second to Tsunade. Do something, Temari demanded. Temari, Gaara said weakly. No, you can't. You're supposed to be here to chase off my boyfriend. You're supposed to run sooner. What about Uzumaki? You haven't seen him yet. Gaara's eyes became unfocused. Tell Naruto, he was right. And with that, Gaara of the Desert Undervis. Two figures and a shade were moving across the frozen tundra, the wind whipping blue snow and ice at high speeds. One figure stopped after landing after a long leap. The hooded head seemed to see to one side, the ice-covered goggles looked up at the sky. Naruto, Micah yelled from ahead. Q stopped as well, unaffected by the wind and cold. Naruto hadn't moved. Q drifted back. Kit, did you feel that? Naruto asked, his voice being weakened by the freezing winds. Q sighed. Something bad has happened. It's like, someone precious screamed and then was silenced. Naruto doubled over, pain through his chest. Micah, Q yelled, and the wind user was there with a shunshin. He knelt next to the still screaming Naruto. Master, what can I do? Micah asked and saw that the great Kyubi no Kitsune had vanished as well. Master. Undervis. The howling wind was one of the first sounds he heard upon awakening. The sound of a fire was the next thing. With a groan he opened his eyes. Thank Kami. Naruto looked over and saw Micah sitting beside him. Gold eyes looking at him in concern. What? happened? Naruto asked, his mouth and teeth feeling dry as if he'd slept in the Suna sun. I don't know. You stopped and screamed and passed out. Master Q vanished and I didn't know what to do, so I set up the shelter and got a fire going. Naruto accepted the water bottle and drank nearly the whole thing. I feel like I did after that time Sasuke rammed the Chidori through my chest. Well, I didn't know many medical jutsu, but the ones I did know you were fine, I couldn't find anything wrong. Micah said using his wind to feed the fire. I wonder what happened to Master Q. Naruto had to agree with Micah's question. And why did he feel like something had been taken, but he felt it was alright? Sunagakur. I can't believe that old woman used a forbidden technique to resurrect Gaara. Lee said to Tenten. Flashback. Gaara. Temari screamed and the others turned. Chio looked on. She'd watched the siblings since they were born, and since the failed invasion there was a change. She'd seen the biggest change in the Jinchuriki the most and it confused her. She watched as he talked with his siblings and even showed patience with other villagers. Temari was leaning against her younger brother's chest sobbing. No, 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 he kept repeating over and over. The demon is gone, Chio said to herself. Her medical scans showed that the Tanku demon Shukaku was gone. With the Akatsuki members S and the sorcerer as well, there had been nowhere for the demon's soul to go and it evaporated back to where demon souls rested. The old woman looked at the S Kazekage, then over to the remains of her grandson and made a decision. Gaara has been a good and fair ruler since he came back. Suna needs him, she thought, pulling out a scroll and opening it. She ignored the others behind her and focused on her task. Pulling out a kunai, she carved the symbols on her palms, first the left, then the right. Step back, girlie, she ordered Temari, and she placed her left hand over Gaara's heart and her right hand on his forehead. Ilimabu Drayuli HDC UV Dra and Funmount. She intoned. Itachi and the others were standing back while the old woman chanted in a language none of them understood. Fet, Kinta UV Dra Hunda, E Sija Dra. A figure seemingly composed of air appeared and took up a position near Gaara's head. Fidden, Kinta UV Dra AYCD, E Sija Dra. Chio intoned and a being of water seemed to form and take up a position near Gaara's arm. What is she doing? Lee asked in a subdued voice. No clue, Tenten said as she watched while Kakashi wrapped her wounds. Neji was watching, his eyes taking it all in, while Hinata and Hanabi were checking on Baki and wrapping his wounds for travel. Ayndr, Kinta UV Dra Facedi, E Sija Dra. Chio intoned and a rock-like creature rose up from the floor and took up a position by Gaara's other arm. She is calling on the elements of some kind, Neji said, but she's pushing a lot of chakra into the Kazekage's body as well. Vina, Kinta UV Dra Kuada, E Paka Alr Dra. She intoned and a spark and soon a dancing flame appeared at Gaara's feet. Kint YHC UV Dra Amasa HDC, E Paka Alr Dra. Akuelaka so Mevabunla Voon Dreed UV Gaara Sabuku. E Siga Drek DNYTA UV so UFHVNA Fem. Silver light could be seen glowing from under her hands. So PMU Voon Rek PMU, so Meva Voon Rek Meva. YC so Fem, Siusio Ed Pa. The elements that had been summoned at this time were floating in the air and circling Gaara's body. As they drifted closer and closer, those watching could see the sand under him begin to shift. When Chio finished her incantation, there was a flash and she slumped backwards. The elements slammed into Gaara. The ground shook and the air seemed to whip around. The moisture in the air seemed to be condescending on the cave walls, and several of the nearby rocks actually burned. The wind howled through the cave and those watching were forced to shield their eyes as sand spun around Gaara's body. They watched as it lifted off the ground and Chio's body seemed to be absorbed into the cave floor. The watching Nin saw that Deidara's ashes and all the remains of Sasori and his puppets were pulled into the earth as well. Temari watched as she used her fan as a shield from the wind, her eyes watching her youngest brother's body. A blue light was circling above and then, like a bird of prey attacking, it swooped in and slammed into Gaara's body. All there saw his eyes open and he silently screamed. The sand in the cave rushed to him and formed a cocoon around him, slowly lowering to the ground. End flashback. Temari looked in the hospital room where Gaara was sitting glaring at the doctors who wanted to perform tests. Excuse me, Lee. I need to save an idiot doctor from getting a sand enema. The fan user said, walking away from the leaf nin, who turned as Tenten put an arm around his waist and Neji an arm over his shoulders, Lee between them. Let's go check on Guy. Sakura watched them go. She clutched the scrolls she'd stolen to her under her shirt. She'd swiped Chio's scrolls while everyone was rushing to check on the Kazekage. Shia. Just another demon for Sasuke-kun to K when he comes back to me. The pink-haired Jenin thought as she hurried back to the hotel. She'd avoided her teammates since the cave and was trying to figure out how to make this work to her advantage. Sakura was walking the streets when a gloved hand closed over her mouth and pulled her into an alley. Hello Haruno. We need to talk. Under this, Micah had gone out and hunted, managing to capture a pair of tundra rabbits. Naruto looked at the dog-sized rabbits and shook his head as his silver-haired brother cooked some of the meat and smoked the rest. You think the fox will be back? Micah shrugged. Not sure. Stop asking, it's driving me crazy. Naruto sipped the broth Micah had made by soaking the rabbit bones and the fat. The wind user wasted nothing of what he hunted. Naruto made a face at some of the things he'd seen Micah make in the last 2 years. He fried up the innards, and once he'd seen Micah drink the juice from a desert snake and then eat the eyeball. How's the rabbits coming? He asked. Nearly done. Micah said calmly. Better than bug stew. Naruto muttered, remembering the beetles and other insects the dragon Hanyu had cooked with some noodles and veggies. Naruto had eaten 4 bowls before Micah had told him what was in the stew. You liked it till you found out what was in it. Micah said, turning some of the meat over. Where is that damned fox? Naruto muttered. He felt better now, but something was off. If this is his idea of a joke, I don't like it. The blonde muttered. I don't think it was. He looked really worried. Micah said, tasting his stew he was making as well. Micah had learned how to heat stones to cook on them with chakra, and he'd found a way to boil as if it was a stone top. You're getting better at that. Naruto said, changing the subject and watching his friend and brother in all ways that mattered between them. Yeah, well, I spent time with the vixens on those nights you were out playing with the kits. Uncle Naruto was entertaining the children. Micah said playfully. Shut up. It was fun. I'm sure it was, Micah said, but the women decided I needed to know my way around a kitchen that didn't involve something with noodles. Both shuddered at that. The vixens had tried for months to get the boys off their ramen addictions, but it failed as a ramen stand opened up in Lowtown. Wonder how Vivi's doing. Naruto thought suddenly of the little ramen chef. Missing us probably. Micah answered. I think we got some of the Lowtowners hooked on it, so he should be staying in business at least. Hey, Mikahamaru, are you scared of what the tests will be once we reach wherever Q wants us to go? Naruto asked. When they were alone, the boys talked about what was on their mind, even if they changed subjects rapidly. They talked freely, and it was a comfort to both that they'd had when they were a lot younger before the academy and Micah leaving and their times on the streets of Konohagakure. Terrified and excited, Micah said, tasting the stew and adding some herbs to it for seasoning. Me too, Naruto admitted, his hand lashed out to steal a piece of the cooking rabbit when his hand was slapped. Hey, no fair using your wind to smack me, I'm in a delicate way. The blonde pouted and Micah snorted and they both laughed. Wonder what the fox wanted to tell me about. Naruto sighed aloud. Micah mentally banged his head off the wall and cursed Naruto's inability to be patient. He wouldn't admit it out loud, but he was curious as to what the fox had learned back in their own realm. Both sat staring into the fire as the tundra rabbits roasted and the stew cooked on the heated rocks. Morning came and both boys were still alone. Well, I think we should continue to head in the direction he had us going in, Naruto said over their breakfast rations. But what if he appears here and we're gone? Micah asks. How long can we sit here, Micah? How long before we have to turn back and return to Solid Anu? Naruto asked, staring into the fire. Well, with rations and if we hunted as well, months really, Micah said. Naruto looked at him. I smoked half the rabbits and we ate what was left of the stew for breakfast. We have enough rations of over a month, and with hunting really, indefinitely actually, Micah admitted. Well, let's just travel in a straight line and see what happens, Naruto said. Micah nodded finally and packed up their supplies. Once outside the shelter they collapsed it back into its storage scroll. Wrapped in their snow gear once more they leapt, the wind and snow their only current companions. From a distance a pair of emerald green eyes watched them, Another figure moved up and the first one holding the bow made a gesture and soon the howl of wolves filled the sky and the sleds were moving, each pulled by a team of tundra wolves. Undervis. For 3 days they traveled over ice and snow. They would travel from sunup to sunset and sleep in the shelter. On the 4th day Naruto paused. What? Micah asked, stopping next to him. Do you feel that? Naruto asked, his goggle-covered eyes on the distance. You mean the ones that have been following us? Micah asked. No, they're ahead. Naruto pointed to the rock formation ahead that was covered with layers of ice. Micah reached out with his Vunla-enhanced senses and shook his head. He wasn't as strong as Naruto with it, and while he could enhance his abilities and with effort Vunla lightning, Naruto was truly mastering the use of it and being on the wilds of the tundra seemed to deepen the blonde's connection. Naruto and Micah looked at the snow and ice-covered rock formation. What do you think? The blonde asked. I think we should wait for Master Q to reappear. We don't know what could be there and it would be wiser to wait for him. For all we know it could be a giant snake den in there. Micah said. Naruto sighed and nodded. We'll set up the shelter over there. The blonde pointed to another outcropping of rocks. We can use the rocks to shelter the tent from the elements. Micah nodded. He pulled the scroll that held the shelter and after smearing a bit of blood on the seal, the shelter was once more set up and the silver-haired wind user slipped inside. Naruto sighed. It was his turn to hunt, but he was getting sick of tundra rabbits. He desperately wanted ramen, but they were in the middle of nowhere and he didn't see an Ikikaru ramen stand anywhere. Hey, I'm going to see if I can catch some dinner. He said, passing the shelter. The dome-shaped tent was larger than the simple tents he remembered having when he was a genin for Konoha, and he liked it better. With a modified seal, you could have it set up in second and stored in a scroll. Micah stuck his head out. Stay away from that rock formation. He warned. I wasn't. Naruto tried to argue, but Micah just gave him an even look with his golden eyes. Fine. Naruto huffed and went off in the opposite direction. Micah stuck his head back into the shelter. He had gotten the small fire started and was melting snow for cooking water. I know him. He'd have charged in there and we'd be in trouble. The silver-haired teen muttered. Where the hell are you, master? Sooner. Hello, Haruno. Sakura spun about and saw a figure standing further back in the alley. Lord Danzo. She said, relaxing. Mother said you would be in touch. She's right. The silver-armed man said. The Hokage continues to waste effort on Uzumaki. She's put me on a squad with Hatake and the 2 Hyuga whores. All 3 are defending him, and Hokage has injured Nins for speaking out against Naruto since you've been gone, my lord. Danzo nodded. What transpired on this recent mission? He asked. Sakura told him of the Akatsuki removing Shukaku from Gaara, of the death of Chiyo. Study those scrolls very carefully, they might be of use. Danzo said. Sakura nodded, eager to please the man who saved her mother from poverty. Lord Danzo, how is Sasuke-kun? She asked, eager to hear news of her crush. Danzo paused before responding. Sasuke is working to perfect his Sharingan. When he is ready we will move and take Konoha back from the demon lovers and the weak. Will you tell Sasuke I am getting stronger for him? She asked. Of course, Sakura. Remember to use the root members I have in Konoha still to pass on messages. Of course, my lord. I do all this so the day comes I will be married to Sasuke like you promised, and Konoha will be yours, like my father promised all those years ago. The pink-haired girl smiled, then her whole stance changed as did the color of her eyes. They became a sickly yellow-green. It is so hard to play weaker than I am. I've had to allow that Hyuga whore strike me and play the simpering twit. Danzo smiled. You have been one of my operatives for years, Sakura. Your training and conditioning has allowed you to switch personalities as needed. The famed Haruno inner persona has helped you gather intel and be one of my best spies since your academy days. He sighed. I just don't understand your fixation with the Uchiha. While breeding would be fine, your fascination with him is some concern. Sakura smirked. It wasn't a friendly smirk either. I believe Sasuke-kun can be the best ninja in the world. Once his Sharingan is fully developed. I don't need a husband who talks, but he will bring me fame and fortune. After he's been used for breeding, you can K him and I will raise the children in the ways you've shown my family since before I was born, Lord Danzo. She said with a bow. Danzo shook his head. A dangerous game we are all playing, with too many wild cards on the table. Orochimaru isn't concerned with the QB container, and I. Sakura. Danzo stepped back into the shadows, seeing the young Nara genius with the Kazekage's sister. Oh, Shikamaru. There you are. I got lost and turned around, Sakura said, trying to lie her way out. Save it, Haruno. Sakura looked up and saw Hanabi with Kakashi standing on the building on either side of the alley looking down. Sakura snarled and, sensing danger, tossed several smoke bombs down and then threw a couple explosive tags down. She slipped away with Danzo. Hanabi managed to keep the others from crossing the tags, and the time it took allowed the pair to escape. Damn that woman. I knew something was up when I saw her hovering around Chiyo-san when she Temari snarled. And now Danzo and Orochimaru have the techniques she had written in her clan scrolls. Shikamaru said. How troublesome. Sakura managed to gather them up and make sure the blood seals never connected. Those are some dangerous rituals that just got into enemy hands. Kakashi said, landing next to the others. So what are we going to do? Hanabi asked. She had noticed Sakura missing and had broken off with Kakashi. Shikamaru and Temari had followed them, and they heard the talks between Danzo and their pink-haired traitorous teammate. Team 9 will remain on their patrols until they hear otherwise from the Hokage. Kakashi said. We need to tell Lady Hinata what just happened. I'm sure we'll be taking Guy back to Konoha with us. Shikamaru sighed. And it looks like I will be heading back sooner as well. We'll need to change the defenses again, and start combing the population for route operatives. Not to mention inform the Hokage about the situation with Akatsuki and what happened here. The Nara prodigy looked at Temari. I need to stay here until Gaara and Kankuro are back on their feet. She said reluctantly. The last year with Shikamaru had been a mental battle and she found it fun. His mental abilities held qualities she'd come to enjoy. Hanabi sighed. Hinata will blame herself for allowing Sakura to live. The thought of the Haruno clan with a Kekai Genkai is frightening. Kakashi said. Their inner persona seems able to shield them. We should have realized it back during the Chunin exams a couple years back. How she managed to throw off Ino's mental possession. Shikamaru said, a thoughtful look on his face. Kakashi nodded. Back then we chalked it up to Naruto's cheering her on and her hot temper, and I never bothered to look into it. It's troubling how much effort Danzo's gone into to undermine the Hokage and gain control of the Uchiha. It's not only the Uchiha that Danzo's tried to get control over. Kakashi said. He looked at the others as they walked. Danzo, for as long as I can remember, has tried to get first the third and then Lady Tsunade to give him control over Naruto. Till his escape, he's worked to gain some measure of power over Naruto. Shikamaru groaned. We need to get Sakura's mom in for questioning. They saw Hinata with Team 9 and Itachi and went to tell them what has happened. Under this, the howling wind outside kept the pair awake for some time. Naruto managed to take down a deer, and the meat had been smoked. Micah took the antlers and was carving something since he couldn't sleep when there was a flash over the fire. Master! The silver-haired Hanyu yelped, getting up, and his cry woke Naruto from his semi-doze. About time you bark a fox. He muttered. Stow it, whelp. Q said, and both boys saw his features had changed a bit. He was more vulpine in his features. What happened, master? Micah asked, stoking the fire up to give more light and warmth. Yeah, you screamed and vanished. Naruto said. I did not scream. And I didn't vanish. Q said. The shade took a seat on the ground, his back to the door. Some things have happened and not all of them good. Q said, starting off. First things first. I wanted to tell you what happened when I went to see Tsunade. Naruto listened as his mentor told him what had happened. He was happy that Tsunade and his friends hadn't betrayed him like he thought. He listened about the execution of the council and of Hinata being the vessel for the spirit of vengeance. She's been on a rampage punishing those who have done you harm, Kit. Q said. Naruto didn't say anything and Q continued with the trial and escape of Sasuke and Danzo to join with Orochimaru. The old woman's got Team 9 looking for you. I told her that you were both here and being trained by me. I didn't tell her old the super pervert what I was teaching you exactly. Naruto nodded absently, his mind absorbing all he'd learned. So, you can go back. Micah said. Naruto just grunted, HN. They will need us to help deal with the snake and his ilk. He's managed to make several alliances. Damn pedophile. Naruto muttered. He'd never liked the snake Sannin after the Forest of Death incident, and it became worse after the search for Tsunade with Jiraiya. Now that home matters have been filtered in, let's talk about what happened a couple days ago. Q said. After I vanished on you both, which I am sorry about. But I was forced into Kami's court. Both Micah and Naruto looked at him in surprise. What you felt, Kit, was your bond with Gaara through Shukaku. The big desert rat got himself removed from Gaara, and your friend from Suna's Gaara's S. Naruto looked at the shade in surprise. No, he was, but another mortal SD their life force for his. Gaara remains amongst the living. Now, the reason I was drawn to Kami's court was because of my position. Kami has decreed that without a successor Shukaku's domain will be held by a steward. Once a new one-tailed lord has been decided upon, then Kami will release those lands and vassals to the new Shikaku. Naruto was confused, but Micah raised his hand. Why isn't Gaara seen as Shukaku's successor? He was his Jinchuriki. The two were constantly in conflict. While the runt here will be my successor on the physical plane, I am, until he has all my power, be regent. Naruto looked at the fox shade. Micah put a hand on his shoulder. You suspected this. Why so surprised? I don't want this. Naruto said, looking at Q. Won't have to worry about it for a long time, Kit. Live, grow old, have a dozen of fat pink babies that you mortals seem to spawn. Micah snorted. I don't know. Some vixens I've seen have spawned several batches of their own. Q and Naruto both snorted and the tension ebbed away. Seriously, Kit, it's not something you need to worry about for a century at least, unless you're stupid and S. They were silent for a bit. You both made good time. I'm surprised you didn't enter the tomb entrance. Micah wasn't sure and thought it better for wait until we knew what happened to you. Naruto said, and Micah shrugged. You were feeling pulled to it. I thought it better than to walk into a viper's den or worse. Good thinking. There are creatures around the tundra that are very dangerous. Q said. Oh yeah? So far we just seen rabbits, a couple of deer and wolves. Naruto said. That is because a lot of the fiends here are nocturnal or subterranean. I would have passed you both up if not for my vulnerable senses. Q admitted. Now then, both of you rest up, we'll head out at first light. It might take time to navigate the tombs. It's been a long time since I was down there, and we don't know what might have moved in since then. Q said, giving them both a look, and smirked at the grumbling teens who said they didn't need a nursemaid. Micah and Naruto returned to their sleeping roles while Q thought of things he hadn't said, his eyes watching the two sleeping boys he'd taken on as his apprentices. Konoha. Tsunade was not pleased. She stood in the observation room watching as Ibiki and Anko worked over one Ira Haruno. Her eyes narrowed as the woman screamed and yelled. Lord Danzo shall crush you all. Tsunade turned to Shizune. Prepare the Anbu to take in the whole Haruno clan. She said. It's obvious with the head family corrupted we may need to see the others as well. Shizune nodded and went to follow her orders. Tsunade listened as the female Haruno swore that Lord Danzo would crush them all and return honor to Konoha. Tsunade sighed. We need to find out what she knows. Hinata. The vessel of vengeance seemed to melt out of the shadows and appeared before the interrogation chair. Leave us, she said, and Ibiki and Anko joined Tsunade and they watched as Hinata's hands went to the now struggling Haruno's temples. I made the mistake of allowing your daughter freedom. You Ira Haruno will receive no mercy, and now I know to watch out for your hidden persona, there will be no mistake. Hinata's vengeance voice spoke out. Your soul is stained with the blood of the innocent and the taint of corruption. Look into my eyes. Tsunade watched as Hinata's black Byakugan eyes blazed with black fire and Ira Haruno screamed as the spirit of vengeance shredded her mind and soul. Anko watched in shock as Ira's body went limp. 27 souls need to be purified. They are traitors. Hinata said, her cold unearthly voice intoned, looking at the Hokage. She put a hand out and black fire traced the names onto a scroll. Tsunade's eyes hardened seeing some of the names. Ibiki, she said. The special interrogation Junin looked at the list and scowled. Take teams 10 and have the elder Inoshika Cho trio go with you. I want them rounded up and in prison before noon. She looked at Anko. You will join Shizune and Anbu in gathering up the remaining Haruno clan. They resist them. Anko raised an eyebrow. We are at war, Mitsubishi. Move it, Tsunade said. She looked at the woman now laying limply on the interrogation chair, her eyes burned out. Hinata, she said after Abiki and Anko were gone. I'm alright, Lady Tsunade. I let my anger get the best of me and burned out her mind's the information away. Hinata said, turning back towards the fifth Hokage, her eyes once more normal. You want to talk about it? That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.